Hello and welcome back to Tinker Talks Guns. We're going to do something a little different this time. We're going to call this, These Are a Few of My Favorite Things. And these are guns that are a few of my favorite things, 5 of them to be precise. These are not my best guns. These are not my most modern guns, my most slick guns. They're my favorite guns. And they're my favorites for a whole variety of reasons. Now, I'd like to take a moment before we get started to shout out to my Patreons. All of this costs money. Guns cost money, ammo costs money, primers cost money, everything costs money. And you guys really help. In fact, you've purchased a gun that will be appearing in an upcoming video that I think you're all going to really like. And a special shout out to Evan, who is making possible a project that I think you all will also find very interesting. So, thanks very much, everyone. Your support, I can hardly say how much your support helps. If you would like to join my Patreon supporters, there is a link in the description below. And kick a buck or two a month my way. It'll help. It does add up. Anyway, so let's get started in almost no particular order. This is a tiny 25 ACP Velo Dog revolver made between 1912 and 1914 by A. Francotti of Liège, Belgium. And it is adorable. And no, that trigger guard is not large. The gun is that small. It's a little tiny double action only hammerless revolver. And you load it by taking it apart. Like so. Rotate that lever, pull the slide off, or the barrel off, and then the cylinder, and then you poke out the cartridges, reload it, and reassemble the gun. And this was a pocket or purse gun, of a sort that was not that uncommon in the early 20th century. And this one is in practically time warp condition, except for minor blemishes here and there and cracks on the real, genuine mother-of-pearl grips. And I got this gun because I ran across it on Gunbroker, and I sent a picture of it to Linda, or actually sent her the link, and said, "Is this not the most adorable gun you have ever seen?" And she replied, yes it is. Would you like it? Your birthday is coming up." And I said, yes, and she bought it for me. And it's just wonderful. Although in many ways it is an absolutely terrible gun. It's extremely well made. In fact, it seems to be better made than most of the Galant Velo Dogs that it was copied from. And the trigger pull is heavy, but the double action pull is short and exceptionally smooth. And the sights are virtually non-existent. Anyway, like most of these guns, there's a whole video about this gun that you can reference. But because it's tiny, adorable, and largely useless, it's one of my favorite things. Next up is my Webley 1883 Royal Irish Constabulary revolver. And this is the second major variation of the Royal Irish Constabulary revolver, and this is probably the model that Dr. Watson rather famously carried in the Sherlock Holmes series of stories. And this one is chambered in 450 Adams, and the cartridges they're adorable. They're like fat little cartoon bullets. Throws a 210 grain bullet at about 650 feet per second on a good day. And it's just a wonderful revolver. Now, I got this because Linda's writing a novel, and we do that. And one of the characters is very much into the Victorian thing. And Linda said, what kind of gun would she have? And I said, without hesitation, she'd have Dr. Watson's gun, a Royal Irish Constabulary revolver. And so for my birthday, Linda got me this gun, which is in overall quite good condition. The bore looks really nice. It loads through a loading gate because it's a solid frame revolver without a swing out cylinder. And the original RIC is where the Bulldog style ejector rod comes from. The trigger pull, once again, is heavy, but very, very smooth and very nice. And it's a lovely gun to fire. I really enjoy it. It's a nice, cool piece of history. And it's just wonderful. This is a Smith & Wesson 38 double-action safety hammerless 4th model. That's a lot of words for a small gun. When Linda bought me my first Smith & Wesson top break revolver years ago, I researched them and ran across a picture of a bicycle model, which is the 32 caliber variant of this with a 2-inch barrel. People now refer to the 2-inch 38s as bicycle models also, not awful, also, which is not technically correct, but I'm not sure anyone cares at this point. I loved the look of the 2-inch guns, but they didn't make a lot of them, and they're quite expensive. So we obtained a serviceable example, and I cut the barrel where it looked right to me, which is at 1 5/8 inches. I installed a new brass front sight and put replacement grips on it that are more ergonomic, because the stock tiny Smith & Wesson grips just did not work with my king-size mitts. These are the final set of grips. I think there were 3 pairs. And these are a premium grade desert ironwood, and they fit my hands, not coincidentally, like they were made for me. Now, I always intended this gun to be just a conversation piece, just fun to shoot, fun to show people. But I actually shoot it very, very well. On a good day, I can shoot a 4-inch group with this at 25 yards. And I found I could rapid fire at 7 yards very well indeed. And I wound up starting to drop it in my back pocket as I was going out to my workshop to make a living. And it just became sort of my default around the house carry gun, and I even used it for regular carry, because yes, the 38 Smith & Wesson from this is roughly comparable in ballistic terms to .380 ball from a very short barrel. This is not great, but it can do the job. And I've shot it quite a lot. They say you can't shoot these old Smith & Wessons much because they just weren't made to be fired a lot. Yeah, whatever. I put 3,000 to 4,000 rounds through this gun, most of them notably hotter than factory loads, which are pretty anemic, to be fair. And it's fine. It's fine, and I still love it. It's a great little gun, and it's, even though I have better options, if it were pressed into service, it would still work. Next up, my Smith & Wesson Model 37, well, actually my Smith & Wesson Airweight Chief Special. They didn't call it the Model 37 for a number of years after this gun was made. As you can see, it is a flat latch Smith & Wesson. And I got this gun as a box o' parts, or box of gun. And trying to assemble it, I discovered it was missing a few small springs and stuff, easy to source from numeric arms. And I got it together and got it working, and bobbed the hammer because I intended this as backup type pocket carry sort of thing. I also cut away one side of the trigger guard for ease of access to the trigger from the safe position. I made a set of, let's drop the gun. I made a set of antler grips because antler is cool, and my buddy Jake provided me with a vintage Tyler T grip that I cleaned up and added on, so it's very compact, but it still provides a good grip. The trigger pull is not the lightest I own. It's about 9-10 pounds, but it's smoothed up very, very nicely, and it's very easy to hit with this gun. Somewhat helped by painting the front sight orange, because that's how I roll. And once everything was settled, I stripped the gun and refinished it in SOCOM black gun coat. So it's rather handsome at this point. And a few other little tweaks here and there. But it's just, you know, a good basic gun. And while it is not by any stretch of the imagination a primary EDC for me, I do sometimes, like if I'm running out to the local store for 5 minutes, I'll toss it in my pocket with the speed loader as a substitute for carrying a proper gun. Don't jump on me in the comments. Of course, it's a proper gun. It's just not my preference for a primary EDC. It's a great gun. I really like it. It's so lightweight, and it's just super easy to get along with. And it shoots good. So. The last gun is number one on this list for a reason. It's where the whole no particular order thing breaks down, because of these 5 guns, this is my favorite. So, in 1984 and 85, I worked at Detonics Manufacturing and became acquainted with their guns. And with the exception of the Pocket 9, which was a train wreck in a preschool, they were fantastic guns. These were the best 1911 derived guns you could buy at that time, period. And I'll stand by that because it cost me nothing. The Scoremaster, to give you an example, their full-size duty/competition gun, in 1984 was selling for $1,100, and they could not make enough of them to meet the demand. That's probably the equivalent of a $3,000 or $4,000 gun today. But my favorite is the Mark I Combat Master 45. It has the distinction of being the first subcompact 1911 variant and the first commercially successful service caliber subcompact. A bunch of others came out about the same time, but this was the biggie, and it came out in 1979. Early guns had some teething problems, as you would expect, but by the time I was working there, every single gun left the factory after having 3 magazines of wildly mixed ammunition, from ball to hollow points to target wad cutters, fired through it flawlessly. And this gun will hand cycle empty cases from the magazine. It's reliable. It's a terrific gun. Admittedly, there are guns that do its job better now, but this was the early 80s. And unfortunately, Detonics caved in owing to horrifically bad and stupid management. And they never quite got back on their feet again in the various attempts to resurrect them. But the Combat Master, from the real original Combat Master, has this scoop at the back, exactly the length of Pat Yates' thumb, because he liked to cock the hammer while he was drawing the gun. He didn't really believe in cocked and locked carry, and in fact, his personal gun that was the prototype for these didn't even have a safety at all. But the Combat Master became a bit of an icon in gun culture, and it is a superb gun. One of the early surprises I found out about these when I got my first one, I think this is my fourth, when I got my first one in the 1980s, was that despite being a small gun in a potent cartridge, meaning snappy recoil, it is a double tapping machine, because the lightweight slide and recoil assembly combination means that it cycles 30% faster than a government model, and the low reciprocating weight means it comes back on target instantly. And so for rapid fire and double taps, they are shockingly good. Exactly the opposite of what you would expect from such a small gun in 45 ACP. They still have a substantial recoil. You can't change physics. But the practical effect of that recoil is so much less than you would imagine. I've had people fire this and exclaim wonderingly, it feels like a 9mm. Because some of your recoil perception is subjective, and it comes back on target so fast, their brain told them that it wasn't recoiling hard. And it's just an awesome gun. I determined that I am never, ever, ever, ever parting with this gun, and proceeded to do some modifications, because one of my kids is going to get it, and they'll appreciate it all the more because I personalized it. Custom grips made out of American holly. Checkered flat mainspring housing made out of aluminum. Magwell funnel, because reloading easily is nice. Hand cut checkering on the front strap, undercut trigger guard, 30 line per inch checkering under the trigger guard to lock in the offhand when you're shooting it as you should, two-handed. I also made an aluminum buffer pad for the magazine with 20 line per inch checkering on the front, which means despite the short length of the handle, which is a bit shorter than a Colt Officer's model, I can actually get 4 fingers on the gun, which improves control even above the already stellar standard it was at. And this is my favorite of these guns for so many reasons. And one of them is, despite it having a 6+1 capacity, on the rare occasions that I carry this gun, I do not feel underarmed, because I can just shoot it that well. And with 2 10-round magazines in a pouch, I'll have more ammo than I would survive needing. We'll put it that way. So, a classic gun that I put my own spin on, and just a wonderful, wonderful good shooting gun. And, compact, not heavy by my standards, because I understand holsters and gun belts, and just very easy to carry, and just absolutely a sweetheart. So there you have it. 5 of my favorite things. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit like, because that helps YouTube know that I'm here and spread the good word. Subscribe if you want to see more. And the aforementioned link to Patreon is below if you wish to support me in a more material fashion. I hope this finds you well. Stay safe, take care, and I'll talk to you again real soon.